Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we are going to be talking about how Antonio Brown, Richard Sherman, Rob Gronkowski, and Levante David have all been ruled out for the Bucs Week 7 matchup versus the Chicago Bears, but as a silver lining, we will also be talking about how Antoine Winfield Jr., the Buccaneers starting safety, has cleared concussion protocol and he is now eligible to play in the Bucs Week 7 matchup versus the Chicago Bears. If you guys are new here, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button if you do enjoy these types of videos, and leave your thoughts regarding the 4 players being out and Antoine Winfield Jr. returning down in the comment section below. Let's get the big one out of the way, the one that not a ton of people may have been expecting. Antonio Brown. He is ruled out. He had sustained an ankle injury during the game versus the Philadelphia Eagles last week for the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. They are counting it as an ankle sprain. You could see on the sidelines during the broadcast that the Buccaneers trainers were working on Antonio Brown's ankle, and he did go out there. He did finish the game, but it is still bothering him, which is what led to him being out in week number 7. So who takes over, right? Who is going to have to step up to replicate, basically, or I guess, try and give them something as to what Antonio Brown was giving the Buccaneers offense in this Week 7 matchup? Well, it's Tyler Johnson. And going back and taking a look at what Tyler Johnson has done when Antonio Brown has come out for a game or two, the results have overall been pretty darn good. Going back to week number 3 versus the LA Rams, I believe Antonio Brown was ruled out for that game. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section below, but the point is, regardless, Tyler Johnson got more playing time. He played 47% of the offensive snaps in that Rams game. He finished with 6 targets, 3 receptions for 63 yards. And then going back to the Miami game where he played a grand total of 51% of the offensive snaps, he finished that game with 3 targets, 3 receptions for 42 yards. So again, when Tyler Johnson has gotten more playing time, it's usually yielded pretty darn good results. And I think that this game will be no different. I think Tyler Johnson will fit seamlessly into the offense. It seems like he can get some good things going whenever he finds that groove with Tom Brady, as what happens with basically any receiver in this league. But regardless, you're going to be looking for Tyler Johnson to step up in the absence of Antonio Brown. He is going to be that main guy. Myself personally, I think he's going to do a pretty darn good job. Moving on to the rest of the guys now, Richard Sherman, this one isn't surprising. Pretty much everybody knew Richard Sherman was dealing with a hamstring injury. It's what knocked him out of last week's game. And overall, yeah, that was just an expected thing that Richard Sherman was going to miss a couple of weeks of time. I imagine he may return around the same time as Sean Murphy-Bunting and Carlton Davis. We'll have to wait and see on that, but nothing's really changed in this scenario. Jamel Dean is going to be the cornerback 1. Ross Cockrell is still going to be the nickel cornerback, and they just promoted Rashard Robinson from the practice squad to the active roster as a little bit of a backup, a buffer, if you will, as that 5th cornerback. Now, who is going to be the number 2 cornerback? Well, Bruce Arians said earlier this week that he is still deciding between Pierre Desir and D. Delaney. He thinks that both those guys have looked good in recent weeks, and I imagine it's probably going to be a game time decision as to which guy is going to start. Myself personally, if I had to say, I would probably prefer to start Pierre Desir over D. Delaney. Nothing against D. Delaney, but Pierre Desir just has more starting experience, and I think he could do an overall good job. I think that D. Delaney could also do a good job as well. I just trust a little bit more of that veteran like ability in Pierre Desir when compared to D. Delaney. But at the end of the day, we will just have to wait and see what Bruce Arians decides to do. Levante David, he is out. He is still dealing with his ankle injury. Bruce Arians had said that he was optimistic that Levante David could possibly play earlier on in the week. Was not the case. Unfortunately, Kevin Minter is still going to continue to fill in for David in this scenario. Devin White is still going to get leaned on heavily, even more so than he already is in this defense, and that's what you expect to see there. Again, maybe a sprinkling of KJ Britt, maybe a very small sprinkling of Grant Stuard. That is kind of the expected thing, but overall, it is going to be Kevin Minter filling in for Levante David, and I think that's fine. I think he did a very good, serviceable job. And I do want to go back to Jamel Dean real quick, by the way, because he has had 2 interceptions in 2 straight games now. That's awesome. I just wanted to go ahead and say that I think he can do a very decent job as well. He's going to have a tough matchup versus Allen Robinson, but I think he can get the job done. Finally, the last injury that we are going to be talking about is Rob Gronkowski. Again, this has been something that's been dealt with here for a couple of weeks now. Rib injuries, a pinched lung. That's what's going on with Gronkowski. Nothing has changed in regards to that. Look for O.J. Howard, who just had a really good game last week, by the way. I believe he had 6 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. And Cam Brate, who really it's just been a complete split between both those guys getting targets and playing time in general. Sometimes Cam Brate gets the targets. Sometimes O.J. Howard gets the targets. They kind of switch on and off. Those are going to be the 2 guys who are going to continue to fill in for Rob Gronkowski. Now, despite all of that injury stuff, right? I know that's a lot of doom and gloom. Oh man, the Bucs are without 4 of their key starters. This sucks. They could potentially be getting Antoine Winfield Jr. back, which I think is great. I believe he missed 2 games, or at least a game and a half, something along those lines. 2 games, I think, due to him being in the concussion protocol. It wasn't a fun thing. You know, unfortunately, you know, it took him a little bit longer to get better. I hope he is 100% better, by the way. You know, I don't think those things should be taken lightly, but it'll be good to get another starting safety back out in there, another starting member of the secondary. Maybe that'll open up some creativity with Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles and what they can do with a guy maybe like Mike Edwards. Maybe they'll play him at cornerback. I don't know. He might just be an insurance, you know, option, if anything, a backup, if you will. But regardless, it's good to have Antoine Winfield Jr. back, pairing him up with Jordan Whitehead. Again, that's just great. It's an awesome stuff. And that isn't to say that Mike Edwards did a bad job or Andrew Adams did a bad job filling in. Not at all. I think both those guys do a good job in their own right, but Winfield Jr. is a very, very good playmaker on his own as well. That's a good silver lining to have. So yeah, guys, that's all the thoughts here on all the injuries. Who you should expect to step in to those roles for all the players that are injured. Tyler Johnson at the wide receiver, Kevin Minter for Levante David, O.J. Howard and Cam Brate for Rob Gronkowski, and then, you know, presumably, you know, guys like Jamel Dean, D. Delaney, Pierre Desir, they're going to be filling in and hopefully trying to, you know, step up in the case of missing Richard Sherman, and then Antoine Winfield Jr. back. That is some good news there as well. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.